Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome back to this episode of Tools for Transitioning Humanitarians. I'm your host, Salon Wano. Today, I want to talk about something very profound that I have discovered recently that every time I coach people on, it just keeps coming up. And those are subtle assumptions about ourselves that make up who we are, even though we don't want to be that person. So I will give you an example. So I have an amazing client who is in her peak of career at a very high level in the regional representation level in UN, in one of the UN organizations. And she considers herself an introvert and she feels like that is the problem, right? She feels like in an extrovert environment, she feels the introvert and she always pressures herself to contribute in meetings, to contribute brilliantly. And then she feels like her brain works slower than other people, and therefore she just needs to take time, and she feels like she can't really contribute. And then every time she keeps like thinking about, okay, I should contribute, I have to contribute, I'm not contributing, and therefore gets into the panic mode or into the pressure mode, and then she just feels like she's not contributing and adding value the way she wants to. Now, what we want to find, what I want you to see in this scenario is the assumptions, the subtle assumptions that she has about herself that is making up so much of this panic and so much of this pressure when she actually didn't need to do the pressure because she's already feeling like introvert is not really fitting in the extrovert environment. Now she's putting additional pressure to herself, which is creating panic, and therefore she's not really focusing on the things that she wants to say, but she's making it so much about herself and her contribution, right? So the subtle assumptions that we have discovered with her is the way that I was telling her is that the reason why you are so like focused and hung up on I should contribute, I have to contribute, and I don't know how to contribute. All of this has the assumption that um I'm not contributing the way that I should be contributing. This is the assumption. And that assumption even comes from I'm not good at contributing or I'm not um if I don't pressure myself, I won't contribute, right? So these are the assumptions even further. And then even if we look zoom out at her situation, she believes that she's not good at contributing and therefore she needs to every time get into this pressure mode of okay, I have to contribute, I have to find a way to contribute, and therefore she just keeps creating this consequences that she does not like. And this is all because of this subtle assumption that she's not even seeing. Because imagine if she thought of herself as someone who is an introvert who knows exactly how to contribute, knows that she contributes in her own beautiful way and other people contribute their own way. And she always trusted herself that she contributes every time in the way that she feels good about. She adds so much value. She says things that are brilliant or contribute to the conversation to move forward. If she trusted and believed and assumed that about herself, then imagine how her experience would have been versus where she is now. And that's why I have been thinking about how much of these subtle assumptions about ourselves is how it affects so much about how we show up in meetings, at work, even in personal life. So another assumption that I want to point out is that another client of mine, she was saying that as she grew up, her parents always demanded that she studies well and she achieves well, and if she doesn't achieve, then she's not good. And then she she's not going to be successful if she doesn't study well, if she doesn't always get the first grade or first level in the competition, whatever it is, right? Now, all with great intentions, obviously, as our parents wanted us to have a brighter future. We understand it. But the way that we have internalized that as children growing up is we internalize that to mean that if I am not successful, if I'm not achieving those things that my parents say that I should achieve, then I must not be good, right? And we take the same mindset to work later on in our work life, and we just keep pressuring and forcing ourselves that we need to have that promotion, we need to have that money, we need to have that position, we need to have that success. And if we don't, and if we're not having it at the level that others are having or our peers are having, then I must not be good at what I do. Then I must not be a good professional. Then I must not be XYZ. And then all of that subtle assumptions then make us into in our current experience of living life, especially let's say that now we have children and we want them to be good at whatever they do. Now we are also conditioning them to, well, the only way that you're going to be successful in life is if you study well in this thing. The only way you're going to achieve success is if you XYZ, right? So we're conditioning them. And then the more we condition our children, that they are also receiving our message that, okay, if I don't do this, then I must not get my parents' approval. I must not get my parents' love, or then they must not be proud of myself. Therefore, we just keep feeling like in this dissonance of, on the one hand, wanting to do well, on the other, pressuring ourselves that we're not doing well. And then because our parents' love at stake, so to say, now we're feeling so much more pressure that we're not really getting to what we want to. And all of this is based on the assumption that the only way to succeed in life is if you behave this way, right? This is the assumption. And if you don't behave this way, then you're not going to be successful. And if you're not going to be successful, you're not going to be someone. And then we internalize that to mean, and this used to be my story as well, that if I don't have XYZ things, then I'm no one. If I don't work for UN, the love of my life, then I'm no one, right? So this was the realization I had. And this client of mine was also saying that my work is me. Like there is no distinction between my work and myself. My work is me. And then when we say this is me, this is who I am, my work is who I am. And then we are assuming that we're not good at it or we're not good at contributing, then we are devastated all the time. And we make it things even worse, and we're not going to even show up the way we want to. We're not going to contribute the way we want to because we're struggling so much with our own core assumptions of who we are and how we are not good at XYZ, and therefore we just keep perpetuating how we're not good at XYZ. Now, the last assumption that I want to point out that is profound, that I think in line with the previous ones, is the one that I think we have, most of us, that is so affected by it, is the assumption of I am worthy if I'm successful. I'm worthy if I'm productive. I'm worthy if I am earning X amount of money. I'm worthy if this, right? And this conditioning of I'm worthy only if is the core assumption that's running our operating system as humans for many of us. And therefore, we just keep feeling like, in order to feel worthy, in order to feel like we are someone, we just keep clinging on to things. We just keep wanting to create success in all of this. And please don't get me wrong, that I'm not saying that we shouldn't be creating success in life and we shouldn't be achieving things that we want to, but not because we want to prove that we're worthy. And that's the distinction, right? Not because our core assumption of I'm not worthy if I'm not working, I'm not worthy if I'm not achieving, if these are the running core of our operating system, then we will always feel pressured, stressful, devastated every time things don't go. We will be always making it personal and therefore not enjoying experiencing that work, experiencing that success, because now we need to go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, right? So that's why I'm really wanting us to question those core of operating systems that we are governed by. Let's question them and even like be aware of what they are, right? So the way that you can do that, understand what are they, because we have just like you may have just assumed like I did is that I'm not worthy unless XYZ things I do, right? This is just how I've assumed in life, even though that's not how it is. And worthiness is not something that is discussed or questioned. But I just assume that I am only worthy if these are things I do, if these things I have in my life, and all of these things. And to realize that that made me always keep proving, keep showing for like, keep going for the next thing, the big thing, and all of this. Otherwise, it was so difficult to bear unworthy feeling. Now, this is the thing that gets crazy though, is that as I was saying in my recent post, is that when I asked myself what is actually worthiness and like how does it feel, I couldn't really say. I couldn't really tell. I couldn't like relate to how worthiness felt. But what I could tell is when it felt unworthy or when it felt like I didn't have it. When it felt like I needed to prove, that's when I was feeling. And then I asked myself, why did I decide that I don't have worthiness or I'm not worthy unless XYZ? Why did I just assume this is how my life should be running by? And that's when I realized that all the adults in my life previously were saying that, well, if you don't achieve success, then you will be XYZ. If you don't do this, then da 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 da. And I internalized that to mean in some way of shape or form that, okay, I don't have worth and I need to go and get it. I need to like catch it somewhere. And the only way that I can do that is by proving myself and keep proving myself and then getting the next trophy and all of this, then I prove it, but then it's only temporary because then I need to go and keep proving it, right? And then to realize, okay, what if I am worthy no matter what? What if I don't need to prove my worthiness? What if my worthiness has no conditions? What if I feel worthy all of the time, even if I'm lazy, even if I'm unemployed, even if I have no money, even if da 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 da? What if I'm worthy anyway? Then what would I do? Right? These are the assumptions that I have changed too. And then I realized, oh my God, I don't need to prove anything anymore. I get to do things for fun of it. I get to do things because I want to. I get to do things because it's so great to do it this way, not because otherwise I'm just trying to secure my worthiness, right? So that's why here is how you could be aware and question your subtle assumptions that are making up who you are, and then question whether you want to be operated by those subtle assumptions or not. One of the biggest ways that you can question your subtle assumptions is when you feel like I have to, otherwise XYZ, right? So if we use the previous client's example, is that she was saying that whenever I go to meetings, I immediately think about, oh my God, I should think about to say something brilliant. I should contribute, adding great value. I should, and if I don't do this, then my default is I'm not going to do that at all, right? So these are the assumptions that she has. Now, if we question why do we believe that about ourselves, right? Why do we believe that we're not going to contribute? Why do we believe that our default is we don't even do anything? Why do we believe that we will not have anything brilliant to say? Why do we believe that we have difficulty contributing and adding value? All of these things. Let's question all of them. And and as soon as we start questioning it, we may realize, well, in the past, this is how it has been. Okay, but what if now we don't do that anymore? What if now we don't assume this about ourselves that we're not good at contributing? We don't know how to contribute. We don't know how to contribute brilliantly or adding value. What if instead we become someone who actually knows how to contributes in our own way, not because just saying it for the sake of saying it, right? What if we do those ways? Now, how would it feel? And I'm assuming, like me, you would feel very relaxed, focused on the subject matter, not making it about myself, but rather making it about the topic that we want to advance, and therefore contribute where and how it's necessary. Right? You see that we have removed a lot of the brain's noise, the panic, and all of these things, and we're just focusing on what's important. And these are the at stake when we are so like used to being operated by our subtle assumptions that we have never questioned those assumptions, and we just keep doing things the way that we thought this is how we are. But what if now we want to operate from the way we intentionally choose to operate from, right? If we choose to operate from the intentional way, it would be, okay, I'm trusting myself. I know how to contribute. I know how to add value. I want to contribute in these ways. This is my way of contributing, and I always know when to contribute and how to contribute. Now we're getting somewhere. The this would be like one of the easiest way for you to detect your own subtle assumptions about yourself is when you feel like you have to, you should, you're not good at it, and this type of things. Now, the second way that you can be aware of those your subtle assumptions about yourself is when you describe yourself to other people or when you are interacting with other people, you just keep saying things like, "Oh, I'm just, bad at this. I shouldn't have even done this. Why did I do this?" Or complaining or whatever it is. When you observe yourself showing up in reaction or in an interaction with another human, you can start seeing how you interact, right? How you um, present yourself, or how do you show up as this is who I am, basically, and then start noticing and observing as to, is that how I want to assume about myself, though? Right? So at some point in my life, I used to assume that I'm someone who is just so pitying myself, feeling so powerless, feeling frustrated the whole time, feeling angry and offended at other people. This is just how I am, or this is just who I am, right? And that's why I would just, interact with other colleagues where I would say, "Oh yeah, this is what happened. I don't know. I'm so bummed." Da da da. This type of way. And then at some point, I decided to question these assumptions about myself. And I questioned assumptions about, why do I believe that I'm just this self-pitying person? Why do I believe I'm just this victim person? Why do I believe that I'm just so powerless that I can't do anything about my situation? Why do I keep presenting myself as someone that other people should feel sorry for myself, or feel like, okay, is there anything I can do? And them feeling like, okay, I should really help her because she seems like um in trouble the whole time, right? And I didn't want to be that person who is in trouble the whole time. I didn't want to assume that about myself anymore. I didn't want to be the person who always needs other people's pity or help or somehow getting forward because I can do it myself. Right. So therefore, I started as like looking at the assumptions that I had about myself and say, okay, is this, even if it was true in the past, is this how I want to see myself? Is this how I want to experience my life? Even if I'm not saying this to anyone, even if, let's say, even inside of myself, even if like all the vibrations, all the pitying thoughts are, all of the emotions are coming up. Is this how I want to fill my body with or experience my life with? And if it's not, then let's not assume that that's who I am, right? Let's not assume that I'm just someone who's pitying herself and powerless and poor her and in this world, and I come from this village and da da da, all of these things. No, I don't want to do that. And that's when I started changing my assumptions about myself, right? So then I started thinking, okay, who do I want to be instead? I want to be a very powerful person who always does things she wants to, and she contributes and it makes impacts in the way she wants to. She always solves whatever the problems or gets help solving those problems, but then she experienced her life intentionally in the way she loves experiencing. Now you can see that when I have started seeing myself this way, assuming this about myself, then I started seeing all the evidence of how that's true. All the evidence of that true, that it, despite me being from village and not having the education that I thought I should have, I have achieved all the things. Despite having the passport that was very difficult, I have achieved all the things I wanted. Excuse me. So then I started seeing, wow, apparently I can actually be the very powerful version of me who knows how to get to things, in making the impact that she wants to, living in the places she wants to, transitioning from UN to becoming her own boss, and making more money than UN could ever pay. And all of this is me. And I'm so happy that that's what I have assumed that I'm capable of, even though there was no evidence to suggest in the beginning, right? There was no evidence to suggest that this was possible, but I have assumed that about myself and I went to keep showing up that way. So as you can see that when we start questioning our like core operating system, so to say, the assumptions behind everything that we do, assumptions behind how we show up usually at work in relationship, then we start seeing, okay, is that really how I want to assume this about myself? And then the third way, so I will conclude with this, which is where very easy for you to detect this as well. The core assumptions about yourself is people pleasing, or some version of like not telling our truth, right? This is the assumption that many of us have, and it's true, obviously, because we've observed ourselves throughout the years being how it is. Now let's decide, is that how we continue observing or assuming this about ourselves, right? We just keep saying that, oh, I'm a people pleaser. I can't really say no to. I can't really say my true opinion. I can't really make people uncomfortable. I don't know how to deal with it. This type of energy and the way that we keep assuming this about ourselves keep leading to the life that we don't want to, where we're not really having authentic relationships, where we're not really saying things the way we want to. We keep taking on board jobs that or work that we shouldn't be. We keep infringing our like personal time, and therefore our personal time is bleeding. So all of this keeps happening because we just assume that we're just someone who people pleases, right? Another version of this that I think many people can relate to is imposter syndrome, that we just assume this is who we are. We just assume that we have imposter syndrome and now we can't do anything about it, or now it's going to be very arduous to prove to ourselves we're actually the person who we are saying we are. But why would we assume that about ourselves? Even if, let's say, that we have observed this to be true in the past, now let's assume something different. Let's assume something different, like, well, even if I believe that I have the imposter syndrome, now let me show up truly me and experience life that way. Or I've assumed always that I'm a people pleaser. Now let me assume that I'm not a people pleaser. I actually know when to say no and how to say no in a gentle way that doesn't destroy relationships or people hating me. I actually trust myself that I know how to do that. And let's function from that assumption. And when we function from that assumption, how our experience changes. Or assuming that I always know how to tell my truth. I always know how to tell my truth in the polite and respectful, also daring way. I know how to do that, and I trust myself as I do that. Now, if we assume that, then imagine how our personality and how our lives will be. So as you can see that how you detect and how you change this is first, let's look at the ones that you are very like keep saying to yourself over and over, which are I have to, I should, I'm not good at, da da da, all of these things, right? And the second one is the way that you just see yourself, like, oh, I'm just the person who self-pities a lot. I'm just this victim and poor soul who is not able to XYZ type of like fundamentally how we see ourselves. And then the third one is a bit that we took over from other people as well, which is the imposter syndrome or people pleasing, or basically not being able to tell our truth. And we just assume that we're someone who can't tell our truth, right? This is just our assumption. Now, even if we have the evidence for like confirming our assumption, what we want to now do is like radically shift our perspective to if we were this person though, how we would show up and how we would experience our lives, and then go experience our lives that way. So if I'm not a people pleaser, I'm actually someone who always knows how to tell our truth, even though we don't believe it in the beginning. But if we just show up as that person, then how would be different? The same way, if we show up as person who never is a powerless person anymore, how would we experience our life differently? If we show up as someone who always trusts that we know how to contribute, we know how to do things, we know how to make an impact, we know how to make decisions, we know how to um, uh, powerfully advance the topic, and even if we don't, we figure out as we go how our experience would be different, right? So that's why I would love for you to um, really start observing yourself and your assumptions that are now making you act in a way that you don't want to, that are making you show up in the way you don't want to. And if you don't want to show up that way, then we need to question the core assumptions that we keep having about ourselves that just keeps intervening. Um, it's a bit like the programming that keeps intervening how we feel, how we show up energetically, and all of this. And if you want to work on this, absolutely come coach with me. I would love to coach you on getting you to the other side of where your assumptions are the way that you really want to. And because they're subtle, finding those assumptions, changing those assumptions, and showing up the way you want to is something that I would love to work with you on. And I would love for you to message me or email me at asal@complaintfree.life. Okay, my dears, thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you very soon.